Before this video begins, I already have a new channel. This is not going to be the main one I'm going to be using for the big content. This is just going to be a side thing I do for fun and when I have the time. Don't expect constant uploads, but yeah, I will be doing that at least for a while. The main channel should be out in, I don't know, a month or two, hopefully. Either way, let's get started. Well, this is the end. The end of the trilogy that wasn't supposed to be a trilogy, that was supposed to be a summer hobby project thing that ended up extending almost a year. Yeah, I don't plan things very well. Either way, I think it's high time we finish this project and the final huge video of this channel. Emphasis on huge. I'll talk about that later. Either way, let's finish Amphibia with the final part, Season 3. Season 3 is the most controversial season of the entire series. I am honestly not surprised, seeing as I've watched this, and yeah, I have my gripes with it. I think the main reason people don't like Season 3 was because Season 2 was filled with lore, good character moments, and generally just a magical feel to it. And I think Amphibia really helped with these things. The problem with Season 3? We're not in Amphibia. We are on Earth, having mundane but wacky adventures. It's no insanity that the Season 2 most memorable episodes are known for, and not to mention we are having a full-on war against literal warlords in the other side. I think people would have much rather seen a different take on this, and not to mention on the later parts of the season, certain arcs and character moments are kinda handled really weirdly, but we'll get to those when we get to those. The main reason I think people dislike Season 3 is because we don't get an emphasis on the lore and story that Season 2 had. We're stuck on Earth, and with Earth lore, we don't have the war of the amphibians going on our side. Our main point of view character is Anne. We only get one Sasha episode. And yes, we see Andreas' perspective from time to time, but he's generally focused on Earth, so yeah, we don't really get to see much of Amphibia in the first half of the season. And honestly, I think that's to its detriment. Seeing the huge Mark true colors left, I think this was kinda disappointing for most people that got hooked on the show. So, yeah, I think that's why people dislike Season 3. Me personally, though, I actually like this part of the season. I would have much rather preferred it be handled differently. Not to discard the Earth episodes entirely, but have them balanced with some Amphibia episodes, maybe. I'll get into that when we need to, but yeah. My main problem with this part of the series is its handling of characters and story arcs, and generally its inconsistency with established things that the previous seasons did. Well, it's easier to explain when we get to the episodes. It's kind of hard to do. But either way, let's finish this. And let's start the beginning of the end with the new normal. Parting right off where we left off. Anne gets back to Earth, goes back to her old house, reunites with her parents, explains everything to them. We pass like, I don't know, what, a week in a really relatable song, I think it was, until eventually Anne gets tired of the indoors and wants to go to the supermarket. But unbeknownst to her, Andrea sends a robot after her and a new Cynthia Coven book because he's relatable like that. And yeah, they have to fight it around the supermarket while hiding it from her parents, which is a pretty entertaining fight. And ultimately, the episode culminates in Anne summarizing basically everything she has to do.
All I have to do is protect you guys and keep you a secret. Oh, and find a way to reopen a portal to Amphibia and return you home. And somehow defeat King Andreas, and make up with my 2 best friends, and bring them back to Earth. Okay, it sounds like a lot. But I can do it! I'm perfectly capable.
Thanks, Anne. You kind of saved me the job of spelling it myself. Thanks a lot. Either way, I don't know how to feel about this episode very much. I like it a lot. The second half is really fun. But I think the first, 5 minutes of it are kind of rushed. We get to Earth. We get internet. Nice. We get back to Anne's home. Everything up to her parents' reaction is done pretty well until we just rush through the explanation. And honestly, Anne's parents have pretty mundane reactions. Really mundane. Yeah, but not really in a realistic way. And, it's kind of weird, especially considering that Amphibia has always have some sort of groundness to the girls getting trapped in Amphibia. But, yeah. I'm not particularly a fan of how that story arc was, given. Don't get me wrong, it was pretty good, but, certain parts of it were pretty good, but, I don't know. It could have been a lot more fine-tuned. This part could have easily gone through the entire run. But either way, we move on to our earthly adventures in a pretty okay introduction. Moving on. Hop Till You Drop is filler. And something tells me that's going to be the majority of Season 3. Season 2 and Season 1 had filler. They had episodes that didn't have any emotional character moments or anything important to move on with the story. But it took a while to get to those episodes. With Season 3, they just throw you right into it. I don't know why this feels a lot more fillery than the first 2 seasons. Maybe it's the episode concept or the ideas, but I don't know. Either way, this episode is okay. The planters basically can't keep themselves in one place. Hop keeps getting scammed. Sprig keeps trying to touch things that'll kill him. Polly keeps getting into fights, so Anne tests them in the mall, which obviously goes how any frog talking in the mall would go like. And the end of the episode. The only other thing is that this episode gave us Green Hop Pop and another one of Anne's acquaintances, Gabby. That's it. Turning Point is a really good episode. And honestly, it's probably one of my favorite of the season so far. Yeah, it's because it's a Sasha episode, favorite character and all that, but come on, can you blame me? This episode was basically made to fully redeem Sasha, to make her fully aware of her actions and what she must do moving forward, to become better as a person. And I think that aspect of the episode is done really well. Another thing that's done really well is Grimes' personality and attitude towards Sasha. I think that was done really well. Seeing her as a friend and less of a, fellow maniac. A thing that I don't find so well done is Wortwood immediately forgiving Sasha for lying to them. This could easily be another manipulation tactic. Yeah, they don't know she betrayed Anne again, but come on. This seems a bit quick and cheap. Like I said in my original video for this episode, a simple phrase that they were going to keep an eye on her, like they trust her, but not completely, that would have been fine, but no, they just trust her wholeheartedly. Though in Wortwood's defense, they did turn in Anne and have been a lot more compassionate since then, so yeah. And this isn't the worst case of forgiving someone without any real motive in this season. Moving on. Thigh Feud. For real this time. Yep, I mistakenly called Stumpy's episode Tie Feud in Season 1, and now I can finally redeem it by talking about the actual Tie Feud. It's funny. Yeah, just remember this is a Season 3 episode that takes place on Earth. Let's move on.
Oh, my frog! This food, it's starting to be pink!
Hey, I wouldn't mind being pink.
Eh?
Maybe it'll help me with my next Star Trip audition. Excuse me, I'll have whatever he had.
Sure thing.
What? You fools! That was a lie! You're all morons!
Huh? Who you calling a moron?
Adventures in Cat Sitting is actually a pretty in-tone episode for Amphibia. I really liked the Cousin Stanley joke. It's really funny to me. I also enjoy the small moment that Mr. Boontra has with the planners near the end. It's really sweet and, definitely sees how dark actually Amphibia is. Well, not dark, but kind of sad, I like that a lot. And the episode is still pretty funny, and hosting the very first Karen joke of the show.
Nuts! Everybody out! There's a fire!
But I'm still waiting for my order.
This shawarma's good, but is it worth your life, Karen?
I don't know if that's the only one, but it's funny. Either way, this episode is okay. There's no real lore other than this tidbit of foreshadowing, but I'll talk that at the end. Either way, this episode was pretty good. Probably the best of Season 3 so far. Moving on. Fight at the Museum is pretty good. I mean, it definitely shows how much Anne cares about the planters and how desperate she is to get back to Amphibia. And, how Sasha and Marcy kind of left her with trust issues, Either way, I still think this episode is pretty good, even though it's kinda simple. I'll give my full opinion on the Earth episodes and why so many people don't enjoy them and why most people don't enjoy them more than the Season 2 adventures in Amphibia. So yeah, when we get done with them. So either way, this episode was actually one of the better ones. It's pretty fun. Dr. Jan is a cool character. And yeah, that's pretty much it. We also find out about a vase and, that somehow amphibians were on Earth. If you didn't have that theory before, well, you're definitely going to have it now. So, whee! Either way, yeah. The final scene of this episode actually takes place after, at close to the beginning of the next, which is Temple Frogs.
Eat the rich!
Amphibia Planner ran for mayor a few seasons back. Definitely because of the humility of his heart. Either way, moving on. Temple Frogs. I got braces, so I don't know if I sound different in this recording. But Temple Frogs is, meh. Or really, you can just skip to the end on this one. Actually, you can skip this one entirely. The only thing this does is, show us the mother of all, introduce us to the mother of all, more properly said. And that's it. You can basically skip this one. It literally does nothing. Either way, let's move on. Oh my god, is this a funny, emotionally packed Earth episode with references? Are we back in Season 2? Okay, but jokes aside, this episode is pretty good. It has some decent emotional moments and some pretty funny jokes. And even a nod to Loggle. But honestly, I just know this episode from now on because of the FNAF references. Literally, I don't know how I not noticed this as this episode came out. But there's a bear that's dressed like Chuck E. Cheese. There is a bunny with a red bow tie dancing. in a tiled floor. How did I not see this when this episode came out? Did I forget about half the stuff about FNAF? Either way, again, there are some pretty funny moments, but the main takeaway is the FNAF references, honestly. I completely forgot these existed. And oh, of course, Fork, Knife, and TikTok. That's definitely funny. Either way, moving on. And Terminator is a pretty good episode. I find it pretty entertaining, and the character moments are really good. But, yeah. Even though I do believe this episode is good and in the better of the Earth bunch, yeah, Anne is kind of inconsistent here. Remember how Hop Pop lied, hid the music box in order to protect his family? And Anne kind of hated him for that, and, you know, took a while to forgive him. Yeah, no, Anne does the same thing here, and it's, yeah. It's kind of inconsistent. I mean, again, both characters have reasonable motive to do it, but it's kind of inconsistent that Anne criticized Hop Pop for doing it, then did it herself, and there is no mention of this. Either way, I still think this episode is good. I find it particularly funny, especially Mr. Moonjoy, he's the best. But other than that, this episode is pretty good. Either way, moving on. Okay, Mr. X is pretty funny. The character is really charismatic. RuPaul does a good job voicing him. And honestly, I think the episode overall has a pretty good sense of humor. This is kind of the introduction of a new mainstay villain, though it really isn't. Mr. X is just gonna kind of be chasing us from time to time. So yeah, get used to seeing him around here.
It's 4-on-1. When he comes in, we'll rush him and run. See you soon.
Man, this city, I tell ya.
Sprig's birthday is pretty fun. I enjoyed it a lot. The middle of the episode is just kind of like a huge montage, but the ending is pretty good and sweet. I liked it a lot. Either way, I do think it's kind of an extra, though I do like how they make references to the first episode. Either way, moving on.
I just don't know what to do. Should I quit my office job to pursue my passion of stand-up comedy?
Lord, send me a sign! Hey, have you guys heard the one about the lady who probably just made a really bad decision?
Spider Sprig. A superhero with a scarf fighting a villain with a metal arm that happens to be an old man. I wonder if this is a reference to anything. Either way, I like Spider Sprig. I just don't like the thing they do that, you know, oh, superhero battles, they do so much damage. Oh, they're all it's stupid, okay? Man of Steel came out in 2013. Get over it. Superheroes cause damage to cities because it's for the sake of the movie and for it to be epic. It's a goddamn movie. Also, good job keeping to that standard yourself, Matt. You definitely didn't hurt any civilians in the final battle of this show. Either way, just thought that fact was funny. Moving on. Looks like the show finally remembered what its name stands for. Either way, Olivia and Yunan is a pretty good episode. Their dynamic works pretty well, and they're pretty entertaining. I can't believe I was more entertained by two secondary characters than the main cast, but hey, this is season 3 we're talking about. Either way, this episode is very important, since it introduces us to the core, the main villain of Amphibia, and the collection of all of its greatest minds put into one. And after electrocuting a child, because yay, it finds its new host in Marcy Wu, returning for like a few minutes and then gets possessed. Okay, I'll give my full opinion on, you know, the Earth episodes in the future. I've said this, but I'm gonna have to give my full opinion on this plot later, since I do think it's handled well, but I do think it could have been better. Either way, this episode is pretty good. Definitely recommend checking it out. Moving on. Hollywood Hop Pop.
cool.
Terrible. Hello?
Hi, this is Mitch Harbor calling for Hoppediah Planter.
Wouldn't it make sense to name it Hop Hop Does Hollywood? Either way. If you give a frog a cookie. The planters are depressed and Anne looks for a way to get back to Amphibia faster. She hears of this scientist and, you guessed it, it doesn't result in anything and it's just crazy. The only thing this episode gives us is the answer to the Skipman plot and the introduction to Terry, which is one of the important people, humans in season 3 that does stuff for the first half and just serves to get people back to Amphibia. Moving on.
This is fine. It's a good idea. They need a nugget.
Right, Fake Wally? Oh, who asked you?
I don't need to make another rant about how this episode, being literally Christmas themed, didn't air in December, but instead aired in November. I don't, right? I've done that for the last 2 parts. This is even stupider, though, because it actually is a Christmas episode, so why didn't it air in December? It was literally a week away. What the? Froggy Little Christmas, the mid-season finale that wasn't supposed to be a mid-season finale. Yeah, fun fact, this wasn't supposed to be the mid-season finale, but I guess they cut it due to, I don't remember it, but basically they cut it because of something, and basically, yeah, they just put the mid-season finale with the rest of season 3B, and we got this as the mid-season finale, which is still pretty good, honestly. And honestly, I think it works better as a mid-season finale. Either way, Froggy Little Christmas is probably my favorite episode of season 3A. I know that's not a huge statement, like what were the other competitors? Turning Point and Olivia and Yunnan? I'm more surprised at the fact that it's an Earth episode. Either way, this episode does really well with the characters, how much they care about each other. I feel like it's really funny, the jokes land really well. The Rebecca Sugar song is pretty good, not as memorable as something like Stronger Than You, or honestly, Isn't It Over from Steven Universe, but it's still a pretty solid song that I can tolerate. Either way, this episode does another thing, and that is solidify that Andreas is the most relatable and casual villain of modern cartoon history. Honestly, we've been seeing a lot of serious and, oh, how dark, how serious, how intimidating villains in cartoons, and they're cool, but honestly, they kinda lack charisma. I think Andreas does this really well, and I think that's the reason people like him more than Bellows, and, well, I guess many other reasons, and that the fact that he's actually well written, but that's a different story. We're not talking about that today. Either way, yeah, Froggy Little Christmas is great. Amazing. Honestly, what a great send-off to a pretty weird season, and yeah. I think it's time we talk about season 3A as a whole, and how it's different from previous Amphibia, and why a lot of people weren't liking it as much, and why I didn't enjoy it as much. I'm going to be honest, I had this season at a higher regard before I watched it again than after I watched it. I remember it a lot better, but yeah, there's no denying it. After watching all of the seasons continuously, well, semi-continuously, I do believe season 3 is the weakest one. I have worse memories of season 3B, honestly, but there's no denying it. Up until now, this has been the worst portion of Amphibia yet. And I think it's the themes. You know, Amphibia is known for its wacky, dark, and kind of crazy adventures and humor. And putting them into an Earth setting kind of makes them lose a bit of that wackiness. The episodes are kind of simple. And honestly, not really that interesting. Like, Some of them you need to watch to understand the future, but some of them, mostly the first 3 or 2 episodes, and by that I don't mean like the segments, I mean like the episodes themselves, aren't really necessary. If you look at season 3A, Hoptilia Drop, Typhoid, Adventures in Cat Sitting, Temple Frogs, excluding the ending scene. Actually, no, even the ending scene isn't really that valuable. And even Sprig's birthday, while important, are completely irrelevant. They don't work to do a greater purpose. Meanwhile, the filler episodes in season 2 usually had some meaning, at least the early ones, you know? They were in a journey to Newtopia. They needed to stop for food, gas, among other things. And that made it feel more natural and how we was getting close to an objective. With season 3A, it feels like we're waiting. We're waiting to get more information. We're waiting to meet the right people. And honestly, it kind of feels like a chore. How I would have done season 3A would have been the first half of the episodes be Amphibia base, and the other half be, well, Earth based. Duh. Why did I blank out on that? It's obvious. So basically, on the first half, we would follow Anne in her adventures on Earth, and we would follow Sasha in the second segment with her building a rebellion in Amphibia. Actually, I thought that's what they were going to do, just that skipping a few episodes. Because the episodes are already mentioned could be completely skippable. The episodes that I didn't mention usually just introduce characters that kind of don't do small things. Let's leave it at that. They do small things. For example, Frix and Frobel. The robot girls actually help. And Terminator, we get rid of the Frobobot. Mr. X introduces Mr. X, which is a key villain at the next episode. Temple Frog's end scene is kind of important, but then again, not really. Fight at the Museum introduces Dr. Jan. What else? Most of the later episodes introduce pretty important characters and pretty important events. Spider Sprig introduces Molly Joe, and Hollywood Hop-Up introduces Humphrey. You might think these characters aren't important, but due to the next episode, trust me, they will be, even if for a brief moment. So yeah, that's how I would have done Season 3A. Just one half be Anne and the Planters, the other half be Sasha and Wartwood. That, I think, would have been a lot more interesting and a lot more meaningful to the audience. Generally because of events that happened in Season 3B, but yeah, no. How would I qualify Season 3A? And okay, I'm not gonna lie, the ending points of the series definitely looked up. Like Sprig's birthday, Spider Sprig, Olivia and Unam, Hop Up in Hollywood, If You Gig a Frog a Cookie, and Frog a Little Christmas, all great episodes. I personally like them a lot. But that early part, man, it is hard to get through this early part. Seriously. Hop Till You Drop is completely unnecessary. Same with Typhoid. Like, they are just wacky, weird stuff, and I feel like they could have been replaced for something else. Either way, that's just my opinion. Maybe you love Season 3, maybe you think it's terrible, maybe you like my idea of half and half, maybe you don't like my idea of half and half. Either way, it's time to move on to the ending of the series, its final batch of episodes, Season 3B. Let's go. Wow, we're starting Season 3B with, something. The episode itself is fine. I actually find it really enjoyable, but, I have a lot of nitpicks. That just kind of cluster at the end of the episode. Start with the first one. How the fuck was Anne able to beat a bunch of trained guards with a plastic lightsaber? I don't buy raw strength here because they're using metal bars. Electrically charged metal bars that would probably, one, melt the plastic, or two, straight up break it. They're metal fucking bars. 2, why doesn't she do that with the scientist? You literally defeated a bunch of trained guards with a plastic stick, but suddenly you need Frobo's help to defeat a random scientist. What the hell? How does that make sense? Second of all, I know this is a Disney show and they can't have the military have guns, but come on. That's like 101. At least have her sneak around. She did it to save the planters. Why not did it to evade the guards as well? Just have the guard be touched by her story and let her go. Because that makes more sense than a child beating up trained guards with a plastic stick on sale. My second nitpick, which is minor, is that I don't buy Anne controlling powers completely. Like, come on, how many times has she used them? True colors, the new normal, what else? Oh yeah, and Exterminator. I guess that works out, kinda, but still, I don't think she should have really been able to perfectly control them now. And I say that because she's able to cut a small avocado with her powers, and come on, that's basically perfect control. And yeah, I don't buy it, like, not at this point. Either way, what else? Oh yeah, in the portal, we see a green and lush area in Amphibia. And in theory, that's where they end up, but no, they end up in an ashland. I know that's a really big nitpick, but that's kinda bugs me out a bit. But overall, the episode is okay. I just don't buy the scene where Anne pretends to be Darth Vader and the security guards decide to play along. It's just kinda stupid. It doesn't make sense. But overall, the episode is okay. It's just basically that. We return to Amphibia, and a bunch of the secondary characters return to help us, which I'm not surprised if most people forgot about them when watching this, but whatever. Moving on. I'm conflicted on this episode. Commander Anne is the first episode back in Amphibia, and I think it clearly states how the Amphibia episodes are kind of worse than the Earth ones. But, you know, we're not there yet. And Commander Anne stands out because I am extremely conflicted on it. On the one hand, it's really funny. It's cool to see all the war with civilians in resistance mode. And of course, to see Logo finally paying off that foreshadowing. Either way, the reason I'm conflicted on this episode is Anne's character. Anne, as I've said already, has no reason to trust Sasha, no reason to forgive her so fast, and absolutely no reason to believe she is a good person. The last she got of her was her fighting alongside her for survival. And that was kind of a situational thing because Amphibia's king was going to kill them both. And the previous time, she literally took over Amphibia, betrayed her a second time, and didn't even really say sorry. Honestly, Anne's character is kind of a big inconsistent in this season. Again, with the whole lying to her parents. And, you know, this Sasha bit, it definitely makes me feel like they don't remember after the Reigns arc and how it extended a long period of time. But yeah, this episode is funny. Again, I really do enjoy it, but damn, honestly, it's a big wasted potential and honestly a big inconsistency in Anne's character. She should have resented Sasha. She should have not trusted her. It's the reality of the situation. And honestly, when she kinda suspects that she shouldn't trust her, it's kind of forced and out of nowhere. Either way, I do think Sasha acts rather uncharacteristically stupidly. Like, really? just because Anne says you should build a bridge doesn't mean you shouldn't use the grappling hook. I'm sure she would appreciate the grappling hook if you had it. There's a frame in this episode which perfectly describes my enjoyment of it. We have the story and character arcs, and, well, the entertainment factor and the humor, honestly. Though it does feel good to be back in Amphibia, I feel like we go over the war thing really quickly. Like, I feel like they should have taken out the entire segment explaining the situation to Anne and the planters, and, you know, kinda making Anne understand that even though she resents Sasha, she needs to work with her. So yeah. Also, where the hell did Sasha get the information that Marcy is still alive? No, really. Olivia and Yunan, in theory, are being mind controlled. Where the hell did she get this information from? Hacked robots? There's no mechanic in war that I'm aware of. Besides Polly, but she wasn't here until recently. So what the fuck? Commander Anne is a fun episode, but honestly, with the character inconsistencies and with the wasted potential, it ain't looking good for the Amphibia Resistance episodes. And this was supposed to be the light at the end of the tunnel of the Earth episodes. But honestly, I'll take any of the Earth episodes over this. No, seriously. I'll take tame but funny adventures over character inconsistent and destroying funny adventures, because they're still pretty funny. Either way, moving on. They put Sprig and Sasha on an episode, working together on a mission, and they barely interact. Right off the bat, we have a terrible start to this episode, because I was really excited about it when I heard the synopsis. Like, really excited. I think it's no secret that the one episode I expected most in Amphibia is when Sasha and Sprig finally become friends. After all their bickering and hatred for each other, they finally understand that Sasha's changed and that they're both Anne's friends and they're cool with it. That episode never came, and we skipped that entire cool arc that could have happened. So right off the bat, this episode ain't have a solid start. But it is really funny. It has the iconic pinata moment. Sasha's dialogues are all really funny. They're all pretty great. But god damn it, this episode falls apart with Sprig and Ivy, because god damn it, why are they so fucking in love with each other? I can't say horny because, you know, they're children, but still, why are they so fucking in love with each other? I know they've been separated for a while, but even when Sprig was in Newtopia, which in theory was like for a month or so, they weren't like this. They weren't. So why are they so fucking crazy for each other? It's really out of character. Like, seriously? We sacrificed a Sasha and Sprig hatred episode for this. Again, though, it is really funny. I love all of Sasha's dialogues. Sasha's just a great character overall. I wish we got to see more of her. I know we get a lot of her, but god, I wish it would have been more. Either way, yeah, again, funny, but kind of a wasted potential. This may be, I'm not going to say least favorite episode of the entire show, because it is pretty funny, but just on that wasted potential of a Sasha and Sprig episode, it just kind of, it gets down there, okay? It gets down there.
Can we have a piñata party?
Don't see why not.
I'm starting to see a pattern with these episodes, and that is that they are 1, filler, 2, make inconsistencies, and 3, funny. Because generally, all 3 of these episodes are pretty funny, but their story decisions make me question who was writing this show. Seriously. Honestly, it's kind of weird. Like, the filler in Season 2 has nothing to do with the filler in Season 3. Literally. I could attribute the early Season 3 episodes for being on Earth, and that's why they were kind of plain. But this is just kind of weird. It's just kind of stupid. Why does Sasha's Angels focus solely on Toadie? Toadie is a secondary character that shouldn't be getting an episode at the end of your series. We should be going full character in the main cast. Again, I didn't mind him being used in Battle of the Bands. I would have preferred for it to be Sprig, but still, it's kind of unnecessary. Actually, this entire episode is kind of unnecessary. Like, what was the purpose of it? Literally, what did it give us? That Barry is dead? Sucks because he sounded like Radical Soda, and I like Radical Soda. Like, literally, what importance this episode gave it was straight up filler. It didn't build any bonds. It didn't develop any characters because Toadie doesn't show up that much further out. Actually, next episode is Olm City, and oh boy, we're gonna have a day trip with Olm City. Again, the jokes land pretty well, but god damn are the plots flimsy. Also, remember that concept that I said that one half of the episodes in Season 3A would be Earth and the other Amphibia? Well, I feel that would have benefited Sasha's line if knowing these frogs can sing, they've been through a lot together, because we don't see that. We don't know how much deeply she cares about these frogs or how far these bonds go because we haven't seen those adventures. Maybe there'll be a comic about it, but it ain't out yet, and honestly, I don't think it should be a comic. I'm of those people who believe that you shouldn't have to go to outside sources to understand a show, let alone one as complex story as Amphibia. So yeah, honestly, this episode is straight up filler. And honestly, it's only really funny. Honestly. Moving on. Where do I start with Ohmtown Road? Okay, so suddenly we remember that Sprig and Polly have met Ohms. Why didn't they mention them when they found out the message in the vase? I don't know. Let's leave that up to the plot. 2. If all the Ohms are just under Quarler's Pass, how has nobody seen them? Like, Quarler, I don't know how crowded Quarler's Pass usually is, but still, how has nobody seen them in over 5,000 years? That doesn't make sense. 2, the Ohms are idiots. All of them. How the fuck do you not realize that there's a war over you and you're just gonna sit there and do nothing? How? Second of all, Sasha is unnecessarily empathetic towards Lysol and Engwood. Supposedly they were expelled because they let something like termites into the city and it almost destroyed it. And they were exiled for it. No shit, you almost destroyed a city. And Sasha somehow sees this as like, oh, it's one mistake. They also tried to eat Sprig and Polly and ate several innocent people before that. So I don't see the one mistake, but sure, let's go with that. Sasha, just because you were forgiven for doing awful things such as attempted murder and taking over the world and betraying Anne twice doesn't mean those actions were all the better for it. You did terrible things. Destroying a city is nothing to scoff at. It is a punishment. If you rob a place and unintentionally kill a person, you still go to prison. Even if you don't realize it. Okay, yeah, this episode is terrible. I was considering doing the Olm episodes in one segment because they're just kind of the same. But screw that. Honestly, there was a lot of this episode to talk about, so yeah. Genuinely terrible. Not necessary at all. And you may say, oh, but Mother, we'll get to that. Mother of Olms. Absolutely fucking pointless. What was the meaning of this episode? To make Hop Pop not feel that old again? No, seriously, what was the point? The only new information we got out of this episode is on Twitter. I'm not kidding. The only new information we got because of this episode is on Twitter. For Matt Brawley, pointed out that one fan figured out the mural from all the way back in season 1. That the giant frog represented the corruption in Amphibia society or something like that. To be fair, that's pretty cool. And honestly, I think it's pretty solid that we had to figure that one out, but it's cool. That's the only thing. Also, this episode is incredibly unfunny. I laughed 2 times. The ending joke with Sasha and Sprig swimming around in the brain. I didn't laugh once in the previous episode, forgot to mention that. Really unfunny. But I think that's because most of this episode is gross out humor. I feel seen Sasha. If I couldn't relate to her before, I could definitely relate to her now because, god damn it. What's with the gross humor? It's pointless. You know, with Amphibia's high record on pretty funny things, I didn't expect them to go with gross out humor, especially for one of those supposedly most important episodes. Thank God this wasn't a 22-minuter, because if it was, I'd be pissed. Also, the prophecy we get told was a decipherable prophecy during season 2 in, well, the book Andrea showed us. So yeah, for longtime fans of the series, it was completely useless because they would have deciphered it in season 2 through the internet probably, or through theory videos. So yeah, this episode was pointless. I honestly feel like the Mother of Olms and the Olm race in general was wasted potential, but honestly, looking back, I probably wouldn't have included them at all, or make them be extinct, one of the two. Either way, I think we're finally done with all the stupid episodes. Oh wait, we still have Dratonio to do, don't we? Let's move on. Grimes' pupil. First off, I would like to say that this episode is actually really funny and really fun if you're not an analyst and diehard Amphibia fan, if you're me, or just a casual fan. So yeah. What the fuck happened to this episode? Okay, first off, the title is Madly Deceiving. Grimes' pupil. For those the uninitiated, Grime is missing an eye. You would think we would have some sort of backstory to why he misses his eye, but no. Not here. Maybe in a future comic, but who knows? Either way, I don't know why Sprig and Grime hate each other. To be fair, they haven't interacted with each other since True Colors, but before that, they were pretty cool with each other. Just look at them being friends at the dinner. And honestly, I think it's kind of bullshit that Sprig beat Grime. I don't even know what the fuck happened there. Either way, yeah, still, this episode is pretty funny, again, but it's not served from plot holes when it's like, oh my god, frogs and toads working together? Oh my god, this can't be. You had dinner with Grime. Actually, he was very casual about it as well. What the fuck is wrong with you? And also, Sprig, you say that Grime did all these things to you. You had dinner with him and mentioned none of this. All your hate was directed towards Sasha, and yes, I'm still pissed we didn't get a Sasha and Sprig episode, but we got a Sprig and Grime episode, which admittedly is still very funny, but I wanted a Sasha and Sprig episode, god damn, and it would have been cooler. Still, this episode is pretty funny. Yeah, it kinda hurts it in retrospect, but it's funny. Either way, moving on. The Root of Evil is pretty fun. Gary's a fun character to see again, especially when he was hinted at the end of season 1. But yeah, it's fun, it's funny. I do find it a bit forced that Hop Up suddenly wants to help people just because they share a common interest. But whatever. Moving on. The Core and the King is actually pretty good. Andreas' past is actually quite tragic, and, you know, it makes sense why he wouldn't understand why Leaf betrayed them. Like, she doesn't explain anything. She just runs. Probably because if she stops to explain, she'd had a bunch of robots on her, which, you know, makes sense. Either way, there are a lot of things that are funny to me, and unnecessarily so. You know how the Newts are constantly yapping about, oh, the gems are our birthright? And, well, you know, after the end of the series, we know the gems were just a little experiment. Yeah, kind of funny when you think about it. Also, a kind of dark turn of events is that Andreas indirectly caused his best friend's death. No, literally, think about it. Andreas sent Beryl and all the Toads to watch over the Frog Towns so they don't put a escapade like this one before. And Beryl died defending the Frog Town. So, yep. Andreas indirectly caused his best friend's death. What a surprise. Either way, another thing we can confirm here is that Leaf is indeed a planter ancestor, and that she was indeed friends with Andreas and Beryl. And yep, she even invented the planter dance with the Mossman. Pretty cool, huh? Either way, in the future we're getting a lot of core stuff, and how it's inherited a bunch of Marcy's quirks, and how it's eating random cupcakes, and yeah, apparently it just optimized its own head somehow, I don't know. Either way, looks like they're finally getting ready to invade Earth. So yeah, hopefully the series picks up by then. Hopefully. This episode is actually pretty good. And really funny. Tritonia is nice to see again, but the complaint I have is that suddenly Anne is using the sword that he gave her randomly. Because, fun fact, she's been using the reunion sword for the last few episodes. And randomly now she starts using the blue one. Oh, god damn it. Either way, the one complaint I have with this episode is that the ending scene is really out of place. Like, wouldn't this fit better at the end of The Core and the King? Instead of an episode surrounding Tritonio? Feel like it would have been more on theme with that episode. Even as an opener, it would have worked better. But, yeah, no. This episode is still pretty good, and if I'm not mistaken, the next one is either one of two. The return of Domino or 3 armies. Because we're in the final stretch of the series. There's like 4 episodes left. Whew, let's go. Look, Fight or Flight is really funny. I genuinely like what the cast did. Everybody had their funny moment to shine. Grimes' moment, fucking amazing. God-bustingly hilarious. But Anne is so stupid in this episode. It is dumb, literally. She believes wholeheartedly that Domino 2 will remember her despite the last time they met, that she was going to eat her. No doubt about it. The only reason she went behind her was because she had the mouse, and apparently that's priority. And it's doubly as stupid that she actually remembers Anne and actually considers her owner, because it's stupid. She was about to eat her. Either way, yeah, it's pretty stupid. Again, the rest of the cast is really funny. I especially like Speedy Joe and Grime. Sasha's also pretty funny. But honestly, the only takeaway of this episode other than that is that Speedy Joe is out here running like fucking Naruto. Either way, we're in the final batch of episodes. I must say that now. We only have 4 episodes remaining. The 3 armies, the beginning of the end, all in, and the hardest thing. Yeah, I'm probably going to have to say a lot of them, especially those last 3. Either way, let's get this over with. Actually, before that, I forgot to mention something. So, I don't remember when these were revealed. I think it was between Marcy at the gates and or something like that. I don't know. But But basically we got Sasha and Marcy's and a few other characters' beta designs. Sasha's is mainly different armors and different styles of hair. There's one with a serpent-like sword. There's one with a gauntlet. There's one with a skull in her shoulder. There's one with a mask on her belt. There's a lot of different ones. It's basically different armors and hairstyles. We also got Marcy, and oh boy, Marcy got a lot of beta designs. If I were to analyze each and every one of them, we'd be here for days on end. There was one witch-like one. There was one moth cape one. There was a more, I don't know how to say it, but one with glasses. And yeah, there were a lot of different designs for her. If I were to talk about them individually, there would be no end. But another thing we got designs for was Darcy. Darcy had really, really weird beta designs, I have to say. Like, what the fuck were they thinking? Seriously? I mean, look at this. You have this one, which is pretty similar to the original. You have this one with, a bit exaggerated shoulder pads, if I might. And then you got the ones in the bottom, which are just like, what? How was she supposed to come back from that one, Matt? I'm assuming that's why they didn't use it, but I'm not gonna say they didn't have some interesting ideas for their designs. Some are pretty cool, but yeah, no, I think they just went apeshit with the bottom ones. Either way, now let's finally move on to the 3 armies. The 3 armies is okay. I mean, it's funny. Again, yeah, what a surprise. But, it's kinda weird having the new Toad conflict now, when everybody has seemed to be working together for a pretty long time. I mean, Toads and Newts have kind of been the main source of conflict. The Frogs just kind of have stood there. But that doesn't mean they haven't worked together. I mean, technically, they've worked together for the government for years. And a lot of them work together in bands. So, why is suddenly having a Newt, Toad, and Frog work together so weird? Wasn't there a gang that had a Newt, Frog, and Toad back in Season 2? But, yeah, other than that, I do feel like everybody is a bit, how to put this, overly racist towards each other. I get it's 900 plus years of conflict, but, I mean, you haven't had problems with this before. Also, where did the axolotls fall in? There are axolotls in Newtopia, and there are axolotls in Wartwood. Where do they fall in this conflict? With the majority? Also, the lizard people that are in Wartwood and the toads that are in Wartwood, where did they fall in this conflict? I mean, yeah, Toadstool was a dick in the past, but he's cool now, so why is he so reluctant to work with others? Also, they didn't even mention the mushroom zombies. I feel like they'd had a few things to say about that. But, yeah, it's kind of a weird episode to have now. Feel like it should have been in the Newtopia arc, but, yeah, no, I don't know how they would have fit that in there, honestly. Either way, we're finally going to move on to, well, the final episodes of Season 3. The beginning of the end, all in, and the hardest thing. Let's go. These people walked from Wartwood to Newtopia in less than a few hours. How long did it take for planters in it to get to Newtopia? Oh yeah, like 3 fucking weeks. No, we can just walk there in like an hour or so. Mother Olm mentioned last episode, which I think I didn't mention her last episode because she came so out of nowhere. But whatever. She mentioned Andrews invading Amphibia tonight. When the armies arrive, it's still daytime. What the fuck? How? Also, Sasha, you fucking hypocrite. I get her, like, doubting if to keep being friends with Marcy, because, but telling Anne that she abused her trust and that she can't be trusted is a massive hypocrisy. If anything, Anne should be the one saying that, not Sasha. 2, Anne says forgiveness takes time. Oh yeah, that definitely applies to Sasha. Wait, bro, you fucking bimbo. Can I say that? Either way. What else? What else is the plot hole? Oh yeah. How has the Corps not fucking considered the fact killing Anne is a liability? 1, Andrea said she has a connection to the stone, aka not the stone's power directly. She has a small portion of it left that lets her absorb the rest of it. She doesn't have the power in and of itself, just a connection. You've been able to use the portal perfectly with Anne still having that percentage. Even if you kill her and that percentage is gone, it should hypothetically still work. I know this is just kind of a stupid not to kill Anne. Also, how long does it take to produce those collars? Because they could have just easily just had them collared up instantly. Also, another thing is, how does Newtopia Castle function if Darcy has the music box in her hands? I thought that didn't work unless it was in that pedestal, which is highly unprotected. No wonder they put that hologram there. But still. To be fair, I really like the battle in this episode. The war is really fun. It's eye candy. God, but still, this episode has a lot of problems, man. A lot of them. Like, man. Either way, yeah, let's move on to All In. All In. Okay, yeah, I kind of forgot to mention this and didn't know where to put it. But eventually, in the middle of the series run, the Amphibia pilot was released. It's kind of weird, Some pilots get released years after their series have concluded, and others get released in the middle of the series airing. It's weird. Either way, I think the pilot is pretty solid. Quite interesting in what Amphibia was going to be. Originally, Sprig was going to be named Twig or Weed or something like that. Hop-Up was a lot more mysterious. Polly didn't exist. Grime was a lot more menacing. We got No Place I'd Rather Be in the background, which, to be fair, it does kind of feel in tone with the series. Sasha and Marcy were doodle characters. Anne had a diary, which she still has in the show, but it's kind of different. And yeah, Sprig's voice was different, but then again, Sprig was entirely different. Yeah, the pilot is quite interesting to look back on, to see the original ideas of Amphibiland. Yeah, I feel like that was a good change, honestly. Also, a lot of the frogs' designs changed. Hop-Up looks a lot more rustic, like a character straight out of Invader Zim or Randy Cunningham. But, yeah. I just wanted to mention the pilot, because if not, this Amphibia retrospective wouldn't be complete. But you did mention the theme song takeovers, or the shorts. I'm not reviewing every individual short. The theme song takeovers are public, and honestly, they're just songs. They give you a bit of extra history, and that's about it. Okay, now let's actually talk about All In. All In. For being a 47-minuter, I really don't have much to say about this episode. Don't get me wrong, it's funny, fun, and pretty good, but it's just a lot of battles, and more battles, and battles, and yeah. There are some character moments, and I think most of the character arcs here are done really well. I do think the Planters one is a bit forced. I mean, really, Andreas had specifically those herons under his control. Really? Those specific ones? And second of all, no, he didn't send them to attack the valley because he had no motive to attack the valley until recently. He didn't know Leaf was even there until this episode, so yeah, no. The whole thing that Andreas sent the Herons to attack the valley is stupid. But the other thing is, Anne has this character arc of who I am in this episode. And I know this is basically a mini movie, but that doesn't mean you should introduce character arcs for your main character in it, especially when it's your second to last episode. Don't get me wrong, I like it, but I feel like it would have been a lot better if this was in the beginning of the series. Like, if we would have gotten this scene in the beginning of the first episode, it would have been a lot better of a character moment. Plus, Anne would have been like us and basically forgotten about the Who I Am poem. So yeah, I'm not saying her arc didn't have to do with identity before. I'm saying it would have been better if the first scene was in earlier episodes. Either way, Andrews' arc is done pretty good. Like, yeah, it's pretty amazing. His whole backstory and reveal and, you know, guilt finally comes to him. It's pretty damn well done. I do have some gripes with this episode. First of all, how the fuck does Sasha just walk off a slice to the back? She literally is walking it off like it's nothing. I don't recommend getting your back sliced. It won't end up like her just because Matt Brawl decided to give her the Toon Force. Either way, I do have to say, the battle between Andreas and Anne was very well animated. I don't get why they used K-pop. There were better options. But either way, yeah, it was still pretty good. But yeah, no. Well, they defeated Andreas, and Darcy's gone, so there's definitely no reason to have any more fighting. There's definitely not another episode after this. Great. Okay, so let's start with the staple summary of the last episode of the season. Okay, so, 3, 2, 1, go. 1, the moon is falling. 2, Andreas reveals that the moon is kind of like a pet peeve project of the core, where it kind of just has a bunch of random experiments that it made over the years. So, yeah. Mother Olm appears and says, hey, we need to use the gems to stop it. Everybody goes except Anne, and Mother Olm tells her, hey, we have a spell that can basically one-shot this, but you could die in the process. So she's like, okay, how do you use it? And well, basically Mother Olm said, oh, you have to ask them. Anne runs back to the Calamity Box room and finds Valeriana, who helps them use the power of the Calamity Gems. They have some super forms. Fucking awesome designs, by the way. I love them. And they fly up to the moon. Huh, that feels like a reference. Either way, they fly up to the moon and they fight all of the small fry and the moon itself with No Big Deal remix on the background. I'm going to once again humiliate whoever does the song choices for this, but this is because I have the ability to not get copyright struck, so I understand.
Get ready for the next battle. Welcome to the stage of history. Looking for its daily feed. The predator on the verge of death. Close to his best friend. Being tracked by a starving bee. Looking for its daily feed. The predator
while this is happening, Andrea sends the robots to help Anne, Marcy, and Sasha, and finally destroys his crown, which was the core, and does a parallelism to Anne from season 1. Really cool. Either way, even with Andreas' help, they can't stop the moon because it has fucking thrusters, because the moon is smart. And, yeah, well, Marcy and Sasha start to run out of power. The robots start to explode, so Anne decides, okay, time to use the ultimate spell. She sends them back to Earth and uses all the power of the Calamity and absorbs it. And right when she's doing that, Sprick shows up and her that she changed her life and to not leave him. Anne says that he changed her life too, and that he loves him too, but, still gotta sacrifice myself for the good of the world. I'm not gonna let you die, man. And basically shoots the moon through with a giant energy blast. Anne's corpse is white. Why didn't he get canceled for that, huh? Yeah, basically she dies, and her final words being that she never got to see the movie that the sequel to the movie that they watched in Civil War. That's a really weird last word choice, but okay. But yeah, no. Anne dies. The series ends. Unless, because fake out deaths are definitely not a common criticism in animation, Anne gets revived. Somewhat. First, she enters this space, which seems to be the base of operations of the Three Stones deity, the Guardian. I'm just gonna call her God. Basically, she explains that she made a clone, and right before she died, and inserted all the memories into her. That definitely didn't throw the fandom into chaos and doesn't provoke a lot of interstitial drama, but okay. Basically, the Guardian provides, well, a job offer for Anne to basically be the next God, because she's the only one who has used the stones for good. Anne rejects it, saying that she is inexperienced, but that she might consider in the future, if she has a future. So the Guardian revives her and sends her back to Amphibia with 3 stones. Send them back home, but only a one-way ticket. This next scene is honestly one of the most emotional scenes in the show. Honestly, it's beautiful. The goodbyes, the characters, the dialogue, everything, it's perfect. And it honestly reminded me of why I love this show, why I love these characters. Season 3 might have been the most bumpy road ever, but it never made me outright despise these characters. It never made me forget the good moments they have in previous seasons. It's honestly pretty amazing. And Sprig and Anne's final goodbye is pretty cool. We finish the scene with a look at Amphibia and how it looks currently until it fades, and we look into the future. To me, the Amphibia epilogue is one of the best scenes in the entire show. Honestly, it shows how the characters, despite being far apart, they were still able to find happiness, and most of them is due to their memories and experiences together. To me, Amphibia's main message is that even if you have someone important go away from you, the memories and experiences you have with them will always be with you. I love Amphibia as a show. It's my favorite show of all time. That is not a joke. No live action or no other cartoon comes close to the level I love Amphibia. Yes, I definitely loved it a lot more before. I definitely had it at a bit of a higher standard before. I don't believe Amphibia's perfect. At least not after season 3. But I still think it's a great show. Worth the watch, and definitely at some point will make you feel for the characters. Amphibia is a show that has a perfect ending, and not a lot of shows can achieve that. So I'm glad the crew were able to stick the landing and not, do some Portal shit at the end. Or did they?
Show up, kick back, whip around.
Marcy's Journal. I have lightly mentioned this book over the retrospective, and yeah, I think the book is pretty good. For an Amphibia fan, it's honestly really interesting to see what Marcy was up to in Newtopia while in Season 1, and other little lore tidbits that, the show never got to explore. It's honestly pretty fun and really interesting. I do have some pet peeves with it. The fact that Marcy writes basically everything down in every moment. Literally, she's saving Spring in True Color. She's writing stuff down. Like, what the hell? Either way, yeah, it does make it pretty annoying, and it does make her seem a little dumb, but whatever. My real pet peeve comes with the cherry on top the book left us with. So spoilers, because this book came out end of it last year. So at the end of the book, Mr. X mentions that they finally managed to open a portal to Amphibia, or at least it's implied. I'm not a big fan of this personally. I'm a fan of bittersweet endings, and Amphibia nails that. Literally nails the bittersweet ending. That's why I loved it, and that's why it's perfect, and that's why a lot of people loved it. And I think it's kind of stupid that they literally just retconned this. Really? Really? You had the perfect ending, but you couldn't help yourself, could ya? There was already room for a spin-off, like a Spring spin-off with the islands of the new continent that he mentioned in the last episode. But man, you didn't have to ruin the entire ending of the show with a hint for fans. Man. Either way, I do think the book is still really good. I don't think it completely ruins the ending, though it does kind of shatter the whole message and tone. But I still think it's a great send-off gift to Amphibia, and that any fan should pick it up. But yeah, another thing I want to discuss is the future of Amphibia, because yes, we still have Amphibia coming. It looks like there are going to be more books, maybe comics, but that's kind of side stuff. I don't think they'll do anything big. Maybe something about the past of Amphibia, but yeah. I will read those, and I will cover those on this channel, spoilers. But yeah. Another thing I want to mention is Matt Brawley's concept of the Amphibia movie. Not a big fan of it. Okay, so the concept of the Amphibia movie was time travel to the past because Beryl and Leaf didn't get enough time to shine. But honestly, between that and the fact that the girls returned to Amphibia, I'm kinda not a big fan of it. I really like the ending the show had. I don't need it to have a time travel movie with plot holes and such, because time travel is a plot hole in and of itself. But yeah, again, if you want to flesh out Leaf and Beryl, just do it in a book. They're more coming, so maybe they'll do it in there, just hopefully without a time travel story. But either way, let's discuss the future of this channel. Okay, so I've been calling myself Part-Time Theories for, 2020? Something like that? It's kind of been a chaotic channel and a very experimental one at that, but yeah. What I'm going to do next is basically going to do some random videos about my opinion on modern stuff. Shows, movies, basically that type of stuff. It's not going to be very edited. They're going to be relatively short, I hope. But, yeah, it's basically going to be it. That's why I'm making the executive decision to change this channel's name from Part-Time Theories to Part-Time Opinions. Because that's basically going to be it. I'm just going to express my opinion on stuff while you see an image of the show I'm talking about. And me. But yeah, other than that, I also have a skit channel, as you saw in the beginning of the video. And Another thing I'm going to do is more content like this, but on a separate channel. I'm going to be speaking Spanish, so yeah, if you don't get it, you're probably not going to get it at all, so yeah. I'm basically going to be talking about more videos like this, but with video games, movie sagas, and other shows, of course. I would like to make video games because I've been stuck with Amphibia for like a good while. So yeah, the first one is going to be of a game. Most of the footage is already recorded, and so yeah, part 1 should be up before summer ends. So yeah, keep an eye out whenever I announce it. Either way, we've finally come to the end of this retrospective, and yeah, it's been a journey, honestly. I definitely think I've progressed with my commentary, editing, and video making skills in general, but I think this retrospective is pretty decent. There have been parts where I definitely would have upgraded it, and well, yeah. I just wanted to say that thank you all for supporting me. You're 20 people, but that's more than I could ever ask for. Thank you all for watching, for subscribing to this channel, and thank you for supporting this retrospective. Thank you, Matt Brawley, for making Amphibia. Thank you, Amphibia, for existing, for all your good writing, good characters, and all the good stuff you ever gave this earth. Thank you. And yeah, that's about it. Goodbye, and until we meet again.